Ladies and gentlemen, monsters and maniacs, my name is the Pumpkin Queen, and I want to welcome you all to my castle tonight. Or well, the castle gardens actually. I put up a little fireplace so we can all get cozy while we're here. And I want to wish you all a very happy Spooktober month. And a very happy Halloween while we're at it. And because of the October month, I have a very special story in store for you tonight. So, let's get into it, shall we? Have you ever been to Bunnyman Bridge? Dude, you've never heard of Bunnyman Bridge? I had been living in Virginia for the last 6 months when my buddy Scott asked me this question. I was a recent transplant from New Jersey and had no idea what he was talking about. We were sitting on a lawn outside of the house we rented together, tossing back beers in the brisk evening air. "No," I said. "What's that?" "Well, back in the 70s, some kids were out by this bridge in Clifton, right? They parked near this bridge, underpass thing, looking to bang, I guess. Guy and a girl. Anyway, they park, and before they can even turn off the car, Scott's left fist smacked into his right palm. BAM! Window shatters. Crazy dude, dressed like a bunny, full bunny suit, ears and all, standing there, hatchet in hand. He had smashed out their window, wants them to leave and never come back. They haul us out of there, right? To the cops. The psycho threw the hatchet at them or something, because they had it with them. Cops never found anything. They find corpses out there, like every year after that. That's crazy, I said. It sounded tame compared to the stories we told and retold growing up. New Jersey is a messed up place. That was Halloween night. If you go out there on Halloween, the Bunnyman comes out and tries to chop you up. No, Scott. I finished my beer and put the empty can down in the dewy grass. We're not going out there. We are going out there, he said, completely ignoring me. We gotta, it's awesome, I sighed. You can't talk Scott out of doing stupid things. Ask any of the emergency room doctors that stitched his ass back together over the years. Fine, we'll go. Scott was like a kid on Christmas Eve. It was 2 weeks before Halloween, and I figured he'd get drunk and forget about it. Oh, I was wrong. Halloween crept up on me, and that entire day, Scott wouldn't stop going on about their trip to Bunnyman Bridge. He filled the gas tank in his Jeep, brought snacks, even paid some decent weed to smoke on our way there. At this point, I'd be a dick if I say no. So, off we went. The drive from Norfolk to Clifton took a little over 3.5 hours. We were going way out there. It's a tiny place, lots of historical significance. Not even 300 people living there full time. The bridge was outside of town, on a back road near some old homes. I didn't believe for a minute that a crazy killer in a bunny costume would be wandering around at midnight. It had been almost 45 years since a story first popped up, but I do believe in being prepared. I'd been in the habit of carrying a small pistol with me everywhere I went since moving to the state. I wasn't stupid enough to leave it at home. We weren't trespassing, so I wasn't afraid of getting in trouble. I have my concealed carry permit. Better safe than sorry, right? We rolled through the old town before midnight and made our way to the outskirts. During the day, I'm sure it would have been a beautiful place to visit. Old churches, a steam locomotive parked on the tracks. A true throwback to the idyllic American of 60 years ago. At night, the tall peaks on the buildings cast odd, angular shadows against the ground, elongated by light of the full moon. There were no street lamps, or any kind of electric light. Most of the buildings we passed were dark. Once we drove through town and onto the back roads, it was even worse. Dense treetops bowed out over the road, blocking the moon for the majority of the drive. The headlights fought to pierce the thick fog covering the road. Scott couldn't have picked a better night to come out here. I'm not easy to scare, but my palms were starting to sweat a little. The hair on my forearms was on end, sending tiny pinpricks of electricity up my spine every time they brushed the interior of the car. Despite the balmy weather, I felt a chill creep along my skin. We rode in silence for the better part of the trip before Skull pulled over and parked. He turned to face me, looked me in the eye and grinned. "We're here!" Without breaking eye contact, he killed the headlights and turned off the engine. The world descended into darkness, an inky black nothing that swallowed us up, without a thrum of the old Jeep's engine. It was quiet as the grave. The sullen silence left my ears ringing. So, we drove all the way out here. Now what? I looked out of the window, squinting, trying to see. The scant moonlight that cut through the canopy of leaves didn't illuminate much. We walked to the bridge. Scott didn't wait for me to respond. He got out of the car, closed his door. He began walking down the road, not looking back. I wasn't about to let him wander off without me. Scott is a disaster waiting to happen, and I didn't feel like spending my evening with him in the ER again. I jumped out of the Jeep and followed him. The road meandered through the thick trees for a few hundred yards, for coming to a tight curve. We walked through the still night, side by side. Rounding the bend in the road, we reached an area where the tree cover was thinner and the moonlight broke through. The road narrowed into the concrete tube, cutting through a small, raised embankment. It was too dark to see the top of the elevated roadway. In the waning moonlight, the tunnel was little more than a yawning opening, flanked by the pale grey concrete. "Bunnyman Bridge," Scott said with a sense of triumph in his voice. He took out his phone and turned to face me. "Leave it to this idiot to take a selfie at a time like this," I thought. He made a stupid face, moved the phone around to line up the photo, and pressed the screen. As he did, I noticed movement near the tunnel. At first, I thought I was seeing things, but then I saw it again. From the bushes on the side of the structure, a tall, white form emerged. Scott saw the look on my face and spun around, phone in hand. The flashlight on his iPhone came on and lit up the roadway. Standing there, in front of the gaping black maw of the underpass, was a man in a bunny suit. Wow, over 6 feet tall, and gangly, all limbs and no mass. There was a yellow and red fire axe gripped in his hands. The long, slender ears of the bunny suit swayed behind him as he slowly made his way towards us. dark patches stained on the front of his suit. I didn't need to stretch my imagination to figure out what it was. Blood. Scott stammered and backpedaled into me. Without thinking, I reached behind me and removed my compact pistol from its holder. I pointed the gun and approached from a level of triumph. Sights and sent a mass. Back the fuck up! I tried to sound commanding, but even I could hear the warble in my voice. I'll fucking shoot you, I swear to God! Leave, he said. The Bunnyman didn't stop. He continued moving towards us, closing the gap. The axe swayed back and forth in front of him. And as he neared, I could see there was blood on the blade. I told myself to be rational. This was obviously a guy playing a prank on Halloween. He was trying to scare some idiots who came to see the bridge. But most people would drop that shit in a heartbeat when there was a loaded gun pointed at them. He kept coming. The movement was slow, but he kept pacing towards us. I couldn't see his face in the deep shadows, but I could tell. I knew that he was staring me in the eye. He deviated and ran, full bore towards Scott. I didn't hesitate. I exhaled, relaxed my arms, and squeezed the trigger. Gently. The recoil shook my already strained muscles. The Bunnyman staggered slowly and slumped down into the roadway. He had only moved a few dozen feet from the mouth of the tunnel to where he now sat. The scent of the Kodai tamed the cool night air. Crimson oozed from the front of the suit and jointed the darker brown patch already there. The axe slipped from his grip, making a dull chunk on the asphalt. Scott stammered, mouth filling like a dying fish. He turned and ran back towards the jeep. I kept the gun trained on the man and approached with caution. The bullet had struck him in the chest, but not in the heart. Still, I was sure he wasn't going to last long. I moved to the side, kicking the axe away from him. "Scott, call the police!" I yelled. He didn't respond. I let go of the gun with my left hand and reached for my phone. My right hand, still holding my pistol, betrayed my frayed nerves. It vibrated at the end of my arm. The man coughed and sputtered blood, splattering his lips. "Please," he choked out. He reached for his midsection. I assumed he was going to press his hand on the wound, but it disappeared into his pouch on the front of the Bunnyman's suit. I hadn't noticed it due to the huge dark smear across the front. His hands came out holding a furry black object. A rabbit. Neck broken and head hanging limply to the side. He reached his arm as far forward as he could, which wasn't far, and tried to fling it to the side, back towards the tunnel opening. It landed 2 feet away with a sickening thud. He looked me in the eye. For the first time, I really took in his feature. He was young, my age, younger even. Clean cut. I don't know what I was expecting. Crazy eyes, maybe. Homeless drift and math mouth. I'm not sure, but it wasn't this. "Please," he coughed out again, motioning towards the rabbit. He opened his mouth to speak, but all that came was a painful cry, followed by a wheezing, gurgling sound. I had hit him in the lung. I stared at the rabbit, trying to understand the situation. I was in shock. Looking back on it, you never know how you're going to react to that fucked up situation life throws at you. until you're there. That was the first time I paid attention to my surroundings, since I intentionally saw him. The moon had shifted, and I could see the opening of the tunnel now, and the large, black fingers splayed on either side of the concrete. The opening was at least 12 feet wide, and somehow these hands were grabbing both sides at once. Hands that had to be a foot long. Easy. 2 tiny orbs danced in the darkness. A light refracted and giving them an odd pale glow. That's when I first heard the scratching. Slow, like a labor dragging of heavy furniture across an ancient wooden floor, followed by a tickling, tapping sound. The Bunnyman heard it too. His eyes grew wide, his mouth trembling. He attempted to speak again, but all that came out was that wet, rattling cough. He fell over, trying to reach for the rabbit. I'm not sure why I didn't run for the jeep. I sincerely wish I had. Phone and gun forgotten. I grabbed the rabbit's carcass. It was still warm. I threw it, with everything I had left in me, into the dark opening. The silence grew palpable, and a tap at its shadow fingers retreated into the tunnel. I heard a sickening crunch. The dragging started again, retreating into the depths of the darkness. I looked at the Bunnyman, laying on the ground, laboring to breathe. His face relaxed and he smiled. His unfocused eyes locked onto mine, and he looked relieved. Your problem, he said, then laughed. A laugh turned into gurgling, choking noise, and then he lay still. I walked to Scott's truck and found him curled up on the floor in the back seat crying. I regained my senses enough to call the police at this point. They came out, took our statements and my pistol. They held us for a while. The Bunnyman was a student who had been living in this area. We didn't find out much else. They found 2 more dead bunnies in his pocket of his outfit. I determined I had fired in self-defense and I wasn't charged with any crime. Scott never asked to go to the Bunnyman Bridge again. He moved out a few months later, and I haven't spoken to him since. Time went by. My therapist told me that I imagined the whole thing in the tunnel. That it was my way of coping with killing a man who intended to do harm to me and my friend. I began to believe it. October came again, and Halloween passed without incident. I was curious, though, about why I never heard anyone talk about the real Bunnyman after what happened. You'd think that would add to the legend, but I never saw it mentioned anywhere online or on the news. I was reading a forum post about local Virginia legends. When the Bunnyman Bridge came up, most people regurgitated the same old tales about escaped convicts and supernatural rabbits. But one person posted something that chilled my blood. They found another corpse this year. Eaten. Hasn't happened in 5, maybe 6 years. The Bunnyman must be gone. Cold crept up my spine. The Bunnyman must be gone. I could hear the sickening crunch of that thing eating the rabbit. Corpses. Eating. Your problem? It took me a while to come to terms with what happened. I've spent the better part of this year driving to Clifton and walking through the tunnel during the day. I want to know every inch of that road before October. Nobody is going to die this year. I've already purchased a bunny suit and axe. I'm not sure where to get rabbits from, But I have time. It's only August, after all. Thank you all so much for listening to tonight's story. Now I'd like to take a moment to thank all of my Patreons who helped make this channel possible. Thank you, Cool Scout 09 and Lady Nevermore, for all your help and support. You guys are amazing.